What if the reason you're exhausted, reactive, snapping at your partner, overwhelmed at work, isn't because you're failing, but because your nervous system is dysregulated? Today's guest is Dr. Chris Lee, neuroscientist, executive coach, and one of the most grounded voices I've found on emotional regulation, shame, and high performance. We talk about what self-regulation actually means, not the Instagram version, how shame quietly runs your life, why high performers get dysregulated in boardrooms, how to repair conflict at home, and how to function in a world that feels like it's constantly on fire. If you've ever felt reactive instead of responsive, if you've ever regretted something you said in the heat of the moment, if you're trying to raise regulated kids in a dysregulated world, this conversation is for you. Let's get into it. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show, first of all.
I'm here for it. No, I love it.
I found you in my Instagram feed. The moment you appeared in my feed, I started following you, and I've been following you ever since, and it's been quite some time. And
Amazing.
Literally every single video that you make, I watch. In a world where there is the stimulation never ends, right? We're all addicted to our phones. Some of us are trying to be parents and trying to be good parents, and there's just a lot going on in the world today, and it feels a lot. And even lately, it feels like a lot. Here is, like a lightning rod, someone who's actually interrupting my feed, but with moments of good news. Right? Moments
Hopefully
of understanding.
Something beneficial.
Something beneficial. Yeah, absolutely. In the feed versus like the doom scrolling or like whatever else it is. So thank you for that. I mean, it's just been.
Thank you for saying that.
I feel like
David.
I know you without even knowing you.
It means a lot.
Yeah.
That means a lot to me. It really does. And I am like truly and genuinely working on like receiving compliments. So thank you. It really does mean a lot. And I really love what I do. There's not a day that goes by. And as a fellow parent, my tiny human is 8.
Wow.
I'm trying to pass down a different legacy instead of like, money and finances, and some kids get trust funds. We're going to pass down regulated nervous systems.
That's amazing though. That's a better gift. Honestly, that's a better gift.
At the core of it. So in like the executive coaching world and the consulting world that I own 2 businesses inside of, neuroscience goes so well with high performers because it is all risk management and failure integration. That's all it is, period. Wow. So when we start to look at like, all right, what's going to make a kid, and I don't just want my daughter to be successful. I want her to be fulfilled. I want her to be able to face adversity and challenge. Right. And giving her money is not going to be able to do just that. It'll give her a buffer probably to life. Right. But I'm not going to do that to her because that is almost a detriment to our kids. So I homeschool my daughter, and I don't make it. That's why I have a whiteboard and behind me is I homeschool. So, and I don't make it easy. Like I'm not an easy person for her. And it doesn't mean that I make sure that she completely understands that I love you no matter what, but the resistance and the effort that you're going to put into a thing is beneficial. It's a good thing for you. And it really shows up in her, where she knows when she needs to stop, when she needs to go, where she feels safe, where she feels stretched, where she can feel creative. She can name it. And then she also knows how to rest and recover. And I'm so proud of her. Like I'll talk about her all day because like she's such an awesome kid. And she's so, so amazing. But the way that school was kind of going about, it just wasn't for us.
Why?
Me and her mom.
If you can share, why?
Yeah, without a doubt. So
we're at a similar crossroads.
My daughter's name is Phoenix, and she's a very emotionally intelligent person. And one of the things that I started to recognize is that she was not kind of getting the things that she was good at enriched and fulfilled in a way that I think, looking at the way that life has shown up for me, I know that 90% of it is emotional intelligence. 90% of it is experience. So I wanted to build a life for her where she can have not only the intellect, but the experience, and then match that with time and integration to help her better understand who she is. And then when who she is needs to readily evolve, she doesn't have existential crisis. She just
Right.
goes, okay, I'm ready for something new. And that's what this is our first year of doing it. And she is in second grade. I mean, she's like, she outperforms in all of these other ways. But the way that I'm most proud of her for is she's acknowledging her cognitive, emotional, and self-care needs, and then being able to provide those to her at an early age. Right. So in this
It's
area of
amazing.
overstimulation, I am hoping to allow her to have the independence to kind of put her ahead so that she's ready for whatever she wants to do in life.
How do you, in a homeschooling environment, how do you engineer like social connection?
I'm extroverted, in case you didn't notice. I have no problem making friends and talking to strangers in the slightest. And sometimes I'm really extroverted and sometimes I'm not. So we live in Naples, Florida. We bike ride, or we can bike ride to a garden club that is also a coffee shop. So a
Okay.
couple times a week we'll go there. And there's kids on the weekends, and like we meet the friends and the parents, and like Phoenix is also extroverted and she's outgoing and she's kind, and she can play with kids who are in high school, and she can play with kids that are,
Yeah.
very, very young too. So if things end up like really building that connection, just say, hey, we would love to do this again sometime if you're open to something like that. Here's my phone number. No hard, no pressure, no this, no that. The other aspect of this is that I also, before I moved down to Florida and we lived up in South Carolina, I used to run pizza nights in my neighborhood. So I would
Wow.
invite the entire neighborhood to come over, and I would grill a ton of pizzas. We'd have like 30 people in my house. So
Wow.
I think that sense of community, it's always been something that has been innate to me. It's connection, and then recognizing the absolute critical importance of surrounding your kids with kids who have the capacity to be creative and like fulfill the needs, wants, and desires that they have, all the while knowing that there is going to be areas where they do blow up. There's going to be days that don't make sense. But
Right.
that's what kids are doing. Is the
That's
same with a
right.
teenager. Kids are trying to push the social boundaries with their parents, and they have to find where the disciplinary line is of that tolerance of like, oh, I overexerted or I overstepped, and that came with consequences, that came with penalties. I think that having that, and one of the strategies that I use for that is, there's times where my kid messes up, there's times where I mess up, right?
Hmm.
So if that ends up going on and like, hey, I think we need some time, we need some space, would you like to be alone together or alone? And
Oh,
sometimes she just wants to be alone. But if she wants to be alone together, okay, we're going to be alone together in quiet. We're going to be in silence. So we've never done timeouts. We call it the chair of justice. So we have two chairs because
okay.
if she got in trouble between the age of like 2 to like probably 4 or 5 was the last time that we did this. She didn't do something wrong. We just miscommunicated. That was the foundational belief that I kind of ran parenting through. So what I would do is I would get these two bar stools and be like, we got chair of justice. And we would sit down together because she didn't fail. I didn't fail. We miscommunicated. We misunderstood. She didn't understand an expectation. She didn't understand a boundary. So I'm not going to punish her for something that she doesn't understand, which is likely what most kids experience when they get spanked or sent to their room.
Right.
They didn't mean to do that thing. They just didn't know. They don't have the cognitive horsepower that we do. I had my daughter very young. I was 23 when I had her, and
Wow.
like lost and confused and like don't know what's going on and like everything else. And I read every parenting book, and they're all right and they're all wrong, right?
Mm.
Like conscious parenting is
Yeah.
probably the best one that was out there, because all it says is like your kid doesn't give a sorry if I swear, I don't give a fuck what you say. They just copy what you do. So if you're wondering why your kid's throwing a fit, what are you doing? Like, are you paying attention to your kid? Are you focused with your kid? Are you internally dissociated, distracted, overstimulated? Take care of you and then watch your kid mirror that behavior. And again, it's one of those other foundational things that I followed through on, where my kid does not see me sit and scroll on my phone. My kid sits down at that table with me 3 times a day to have meals, and we sit and we talk. We do board games. We go for walks. She knows that I go to the gym and take care of myself. Like, I live a life that's true and genuine to me, and then I also make sure that she knows that what's true and genuine to me might not be for her.
That's
So
right.
I make sure that I'm
Wow.
taking care of myself, which is a combination of focus, education, self-care, vulnerability.
Wow.
Um, and I did this all with this magic supplement that you can buy for $19.99 on my website. It takes
I
years to
wish
do
that would be
this, right? Like,
amazing. That would be
yeah,
amazing.
bottle it up and pill it. It's therapy, it's journaling, it's vulnerability, it's communication, it's all of it.
Dr. Chris, for people who aren't familiar with your work, how do you introduce yourself?
Um, my name is Chris. You don't have to call me Dr. Chris.
Okay.
It's really great for marketing and strategy. And thank God the extra 12 years of school is so fantastic. Can't wait to go back to that. But I'm Chris, and it is my mission to help people better understand their stress and dysregulation and emotional patterns, and if it serves them and if it doesn't, and then how you can leverage a little bit of science, a little bit of self-expression, a little bit of self-belief to make some of those changes that are for you. I went to school originally in biology and biochemistry. Turns out I do not like that in the slightest. So then I shifted over because I really wanted to take care of people and support them. So I started off going to chiropractic school. I got no
Wow.
beef with the chiropractors out there. It just wasn't my thing. So then I went back to school for medical neuroscience and advanced neuroscience and neuropsychology. And that school turns out to never end. And in the midst of all of that, at the end of one of my programs is when I had my daughter. So the series of events that brought me from trauma into life purpose was I got hit by a car, and I was 22 at the time, hit by a car and sent me to the hospital, lost all of my physical health. And I've always been a fit individual, played college soccer and did all the stuff. And it was awesome and fantastic. Hit by a car. And I can name it now, but my coping, my regulation strategy was physical movement. And that was gone because I'm
Wow.
on bed rest.
Wow.
After that, a couple weeks later, I lost my dad to suicide. And that one really took a toll. Suicide is really hard. Grieving is really hard. And I had no tools, I had no strategy. And my dad was, my best friend. And like so many people who experience losing someone to suicide, not attempted suicide, but real, like they're gone, there's no sign. There's only signs. Like you look back and go, well, of course, like all the signs were there, but they're so subtle. You can pick up the breadcrumbs once it's done, but it's so hard because there's no note, there's no this, there's no that. There's just assumption, and there's just a gaping hole left for you to try to figure out. And that's when I started going into neuroscience. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna figure out why my dad did this. I'm gonna.
Oh, wow.
And you never do. The answer's never there. So a year later, my daughter, almost a year to date, 13 months later, my daughter was born. And shortly after that, I was single parenting and trying to figure out that. And that was brutal because I'm $200,000 in debt. I have no career. I have no skill set. I have none of this. I'm a fraction of a man trying to figure out my life. And I'm so young and I'm so immature and I'm all of these things. And I just had this moment in a Waffle House, kid you not, where I wrote it on a napkin that I will be better tomorrow than I am today. It was like 2 a.m. and like I made a deal with the lady at the Waffle House. And it was essentially, I'll go in there. I can give you as much money as I can, but I'm not going to be in here when anybody's in here. But I need coffee. I'm trying to figure my life out. And I don't know why, but she saw it in my eyes and she's like, okay, yeah, like do your thing. So she would give me coffee and I would try to give her like a buck or two. And like, we just had this agreement, but I could get free yellow legal pads from a hotel that I would also steal coffee from in the morning on my way to school. Cause I was like broke. So I'm just unpacking my entire life and eventually got to this point where I can be a victim of all of this. It can be done at me and I can be pissed and I can be bitter and I can be skeptical and I can be broken and I can say, the world is against me and I would be right and I would be accurate. Or you can take a different route. Or you can not only be curious about this, but you can see if this could be for you. People, and this is not, I look back and I go, this probably isn't the right way to go. People have been through worse things than this and come out way better. I don't think that's the right way to think about it for a lot of people, because you're leveraging shame of circumstance, and it dismisses the way that you're actually feeling.
Right.
So no matter what, the emotional bill always comes due. So where I am today is very much a reflection of a lot of the trauma that I went through. And I went through, PTSD with my dad, and abandonment, and like these random sporadic bursts and these night terrors of trying to figure all of this out. And there was just one day, and I remember being on the beach with my daughter and just remembering, I'm happy. Like, I'm actually happy right now. I'm content with, like, I'm present and I'm here. And I just broke down because, like, life had been so hard. It had been so hard for like so many years. And it was every single day feeling like this was a prison. I felt delusional. Like, I'm not going to get out of this. And then finally one day I'm at the beach at sunset with her. And it finally just, like, I don't know what happened or how it happened, but everything just kind of like clicked. And it was like, oh my God. And I was like, I'm like here. And I think I felt present, I think is what it was. And that's what my goal is for people. So whether I work with them in business or whether I work out with them in just personal life, I don't know what home feels like to you, but I sure as hell want to help you find it in your body if I can. I have another deeply rooted belief and principle that I live by, that everyone is doing the best that they can at all times. And I really, I delusionally believe that. So on your worst day, I still believe that you're doing your best. Oh, you hurt me? That sucks, but I still think that you're doing your best with the information and availability that you have. And what that does is it always frames up opportunity instead of pessimism, because I know what it's like to go through shit. I do. I get it. Hurt people. And it's this interesting form of compassion that I was able to give myself on the days that I hadn't slept in weeks, because I either was so afraid of the night terrors, or I'm, changing my daughter, or I'm trying to work any way to get money so that I can pay for diapers and food. So through this all, I found these really small moments of purpose and meaning. And sometimes it was just the kindness of strangers, of just someone smiling at me. Sometimes it was going for walks in the woods. Sometimes it was going to the beach. It was reading. It's always been slow pace for me. It's always been nature. It's always been slow pace. But it's different for everybody. So the metabolism and how you integrate those emotional experiences, I think you need a different regulated state than the one the emotion was originally created in. So grief is one of those really big ones that I think a lot of us struggle with, because we grieve the passing of a year. We grieve love. We grieve, eating the final bite of chocolate cake, and it's just a natural part of life. And I know for me, the feeling of grief is almost a feeling of giving up on a person. I deserve to hurt because you're not here. Right. And I know that story is not true and accurate. So then you have to create the competition for the belief that you actually want. And that was for me very much taking these slow, peaceful moments and really trying to better understand what it is that I think I deserve versus what the actions I'm performing are telling my nervous system I deserve. That starts to get a little bit different. So I think I deserve love, but my nervous system is too dysregulated to allow myself to feel abandoned. So when I feel abandoned, I'm so stressed about abandonment that abandonment is all I see. Right. Because abandonment is not actually safe to metabolize. So when you don't metabolize these feelings, what they do is they build these perpetual patterns, and your brain doesn't care what you're experiencing. It cares what it looks like. It's just familiarity. And inside of that familiarity, it was like, I see abandonment everywhere. I'm never going to let somebody get close to me. Two people have already, jumped ship and bailed on me during the hardest times of my life. It's not there. But now I look back because I have had the experience of allowing myself to metabolize abandonment. I have had the ability to allow myself to feel what it feels like to not love myself and be a safe person for that. So now I'm available for intentional direction of the emotions I want. Now I have availability to not repeat those old patterns because they don't control me. I don't see them everywhere. I'm not reactive to them. I can be intentional instead. So yeah, I want to live a life full of love and romance and candlelit dinners and sunsets and, sidewalk chalk and all the shit that brings me happiness and fulfillment. That's so simple to me. And that's what I do.
When you start working with someone, where do you begin?
With what they don't want. So there's an executive strategy that I think is really beneficial. So there's a lot of people, especially out in the world, and I am going to just say this like out of the gate. I don't know what the right and wrong way is to go about mental health or how people live their lives. I don't. And I don't think that there is a right or wrong way. I've got a way that I think a lot of people resonate and it makes sense for them because it's structured and it helps them compartmentalize. And then I teach in compartments and then I tell people to live through integration, to live it as a holistic lifestyle. So there's like 4 platforms of self-regulation: physical, mental, emotional, social. And then there's a 5th one that's like life purpose, meaning. So when I start with somebody, I often ask them, they're like, I'm stressed, I'm dysregulated, I'm procrastinating. I'm like, amazing. It is so hard for people in the midst of stress to get the areas of their brain online that can actually build clarity, that can actually say, this is what they truly desire. And that's because when we look at the literature, we look at the research, when in the midst of stress, we are asking people to create beneficial futures. When they are in acute or chronic stress, they will take short-term reward over long-term sustainability. We can see this in decisiveness. We can see this in the salience network of risk aversion and intrinsic and extrinsic signal. So I can intellectually know that thing exists for my clients. You're coming in, you're stressed out, you're burnt out. So I am going to hijack the hijack and go, awesome. What sucks about your life right now? What do you want less of? Tell me all the things that you want less of. So let's start with physical. How's your habits, routines, workout? And they're like, I eat like, and I'm like, awesome. What else? And then what it does is it paints a picture, and it's so much easier to show them, okay, here's all the things that you don't want. If we kind of like look at this and say like the theme of this is, what is it that you think you actually do want more of? And when they have that contrasting data, it helps that nervous system kind of go, oh, yeah, I think I need more consistency. Do I need more consistency? And I'm like, I have no clue, but why don't we give it a try? Right? Consistency is one of those things that I don't think has ever hurt anybody. The same that like vulnerability in the wrong environments can hurt people, but like, I don't think consistency is going to be one of those bad things. So what's your availability to be more consistent and what feels safest for you to get started? And they're like, okay, I got 2 kids. I'm a single parent. I'm running a $10 million company. My bandwidth for consistency is mornings. I have mornings. And I'm like, oh, what do you currently do in your mornings? And they're like, I usually wake up and immediately open my phone or I immediately go to my emails. And I'm like, awesome. What if we took 45 minutes to, what's something you really like that you haven't done in a while? They're like, read smut. I'm like, sick. Get a cup of coffee, read some Sarah Maas in the morning. And they're like, but there's no return on investment on that. There's no like, why would I possibly do that? And I'll be like, listen, if you don't feel different in 2 weeks, totally fine. But every day for 2 weeks, I just want you to send me a picture of you and a Kindle and a cup of coffee, just chilling at 5:30 in the morning, doing this thing that you think is not valuable. And never have I ever, David, had somebody go do some shit like this and then come back 2 weeks later and be like, my whole life is different. I am such a different person. I'm so much more relaxed. And awesome. You have built the skill of building competition and change for your brain to find not comfort in familiarity, but comfort in contrast. So we can take that novelty that we've experienced, and now we can say you've got a little bit more bandwidth. What's the next thing? Now what are you curious about? Because now that they have some of that evidence, they're kind of like, ooh, yeah, I did it. I did it for 2 weeks. I haven't been 2 weeks consistent in so long. And I'm like, sweet, let's build. What do you want to do now?
This is so interesting.
Right?
I was talking to my team just this morning, and I'm an entrepreneur, have a team. We're distributed all over the country. And gosh, I appreciate them so much because they came into the meeting and they're like, okay, We want you in a place where you're doing your highest and best work, right? And
Yeah.
we want to hear from you. What is that? What
Yeah.
what does the perfect day for you look like, David? I was articulating to them like, gosh, one of the things that's missing in my life is like movement. I really need to be
Mm,
out moving. And I find myself like literally, this is not just my set, but it's like this is my office so that I work in all
mhm,
day. And I
mhm.
feel glued to this chair from like 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 or
Yep.
6 at night. And I said, so it would be really great if I could find space during the day, so I could like go walk for like an hour and a half. Like that's kind of what I want and need. And I already know the benefits. There's all of these cascading benefits to it.
How much research do you want? Like you don't, and this is
Yeah.
the thing. So like what I would also invite everyone, because like I do this I do this as well, is like I often refer to information and data and strategy where you don't have to if your intuition's telling you that you need that thing, you can also rely on that. Because like David,
Ah,
like there
okay.
is all the research on the face of the planet. You know that's what that's what you need. Like respect the desire and the need that you have. Own that shit, David.
But what was also interesting is like my team,
Sorry for yelling.
this person will be like, will remain nameless, but I value them very much. And they said to me today, David, how much is that you?
Mm.
Like you may be preventing yourself from that walk, not your calendar.
It's always you.
Well, yeah, totally.
It's always you.
And I said, no,
Yeah.
time out. Like you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Like,
hold on. I need one more tiny coffee for this type of talk.
yeah, I own that. I own that. Like
Yeah.
that's on me for
Yeah.
sure.
So owning it, and then the follow-up question that I always do is, what's your bandwidth? What's your availability to change it? Because so I am a fundamental believer that awareness without action produces anxiety, right? Your nervous system knows that it can leverage change, and then you're choosing to not, and you're being tethered and cognitive dissonance, right? Where your thoughts,
Right.
feelings, and actions are not cohesive.
That's
So,
right.
all right, you have new mental data that you do need to produce this change. You're emotionally resisting that. Now, which side is your action going to take? Your action is going to fall on the side of I can produce that change, but where your actions fall, this is where people kind of get that like, okay, it's the uncertainty that is so detrimental. So the faster that you can take uncertainty and the unknown and indecisiveness and turn it into fear, the better you are, because fear is focused. So whenever I work with a client, I always tell people like it's a quarter in the quarter jar. If you say, I'm afraid, you have to say, I'm afraid of, because the instant that you take that change and you go, oh, well, I'm not doing this and I'm resisting this because I'm afraid of, now you've named it. Now you can own it. And then you can either integrate or you can compete with that old pathway or that old circumstance. And you can do it on a paradigm that allows it to build skill over time. So yes, you need an hour and a half. All I'm asking you to do is 5 minutes. You make it so small that it starts to build inertia. And that's the name of the game for consistency. Everyone wants to be able to be like, yeah, I want to start to like run marathons.
No,
if you run a marathon, yeah, right. If you run a marathon today, you won't be able to run it again for 3 weeks.
That's right.
However, if you walk a mile and then you jog half a mile and then you come back tomorrow and you rest and recover, your tolerance is going to build up. You condition your system to be able to do that. It's very easy with physical strategies like that, weightlifting, but it works in a very similar programming when we do it with our nervous system and these mental emotional skills as well.
Self-regulation is at the core of much of what you do. Can you break down what it actually means?
So let me say what it's not. The internet might tell you that the regulated nervous system is peace and it's groundedness and it's loving yourself and it's recognizing the beauty in small moments. That's really awesome for someone, but it's not. I don't think that is as accurate as it could be. A regulated nervous system is one that can respond instead of react to stressors and stimuli.
Oof.
Right?
Yeah.
That's like the most simple version of it. So when we talk about a regulated nervous system, it's very easy to look at and identify all the problems. So when I talk about regulated nervous system, and like I said, I chop it up into different blocks, there is a pattern to it. So I start with the physical self-regulation. So physical self-regulation is making sure that you have bandwidth to do mental, emotional, and social work, right? Those are the other 3 pillars. So we know when a neuron fires, and it's firing consistently, it is firing acetylcholine from one neuron to the next neuron, and that's a chemical, it's a neurotransmitter, and it is imperfectly binding in the synaptic junction where neurons don't connect and they don't have electrical charges connecting, but they're sending these chemicals. And this is going to go somewhere, I promise. It's imperfect. So you send 10 chemical molecules and then only 6 of them bind to the next neuron. But when 6 of them bind, that neuron goes, fire the action potential, deionize, do all the things. Awesome. And then it fires down the line, and then it's 10 again and 6 bind. But what happens to the other 4? Well, 2 of them get reuptake, is what it's called, from the prior neuron, but 2 of them just float around in that synaptic cavity, and that synaptic cleft is the clinical term for it, or the biological term for it. Now, the more that gets filled up in that synaptic cleft is the thing that produces drowsiness in humans. So caffeine is an antagonist to it, so it blocks the drowsiness of that. And the reason it's so beneficial in the morning is often because we are clearing out. So in our body, we have a lymphatic system that clears out all the metabolites from our physical body. In our brain, we have this glymphatic system that's clearing out all the metabolites in the synaptic cleft from the previous day. So one of the first pillars that I work with people is just making sure that they have the bandwidth to literally focus chemically, and that they're not carrying over the burden of yesterday. So if you exhaust yourself on Monday and then you sleep really bad Monday to Tuesday, your performance on Tuesday is going to be a reflection of how you recovered on Monday.
Right.
So what I tell people, physical self-regulation is all about sleep, diet, exercise, and routines, period. So we just break it down. I don't care what you eat. Honestly, you could be a vegan, you could be a carnivore, but at the end of the day, whole foods, protein forward, splash of fiber, you're going to do great. Stay hydrated, right? Eat your meals, because David, when's the last time, what did you eat today?
I did.
Okay, I did not. And whoops-a-daisies, It's 2:00. I know, right? But I'm an imperfect person. Right? So I'm like, I told you that extra cup of coffee is either going to take me right to performance land or straight to a panic attack. So the other one is sleep. Like I said, sleep is wildly important to the glymphatic system. And then exercise, for all the reasons. Exercise is the all-cause mortality destroyer of worlds. It fixes everything. Like, if there was a silver bullet, you got anxiety, go to the gym. You got depression, go to the gym. Like, it does so well for just everything. So then we move up to mental. So mental is certainty, predictability, and we could call it mental framing or mindset. It's your ability to frame information in an intentional and beneficial way that does not victimize you. After that, we go up to emotional. Emotional is your ability to integrate without shame and repetition of poor patterns. And what those poor patterns are often a reflection of is you experience shame, and shame is triggering your nervous system back to that reactive state that it originally formed shame in. And it perpetuates that pattern, and it deeply grooves those things more and more and more until shame is so familiar, you could read it like the back of your hand and you know exactly the environment that's going to pop up in. What we start to do with that shame is then kind of reverse engineer and regulate into the environment that shame is going to be produced in. It's not going to be a quick fix, and this is why emotional comes after mental. So you need to have some kind of area expertise where you're going to get dysregulated, and you go in regulated. And what that does is it gives you a little taste of, oh yeah, I feel shame. I'm not going to shame my shame. I'm not going to guilt my guilt. I'm not going to judge my grief. I'm not going to do any of those things. I'm going to allow them so I can metabolize them. Then we go up to social. And this is communication, culture, and co-regulations, relationships. That one, I'm just going to say it. We are meant to connect with people. It is like, for me, it's like the reason I'm on earth is to help people connect to people and themselves. But it's a bitch. Because you think your nervous system's struggling, everyone's is struggling. And then it's so easy to I'm going to play checkers. I'm going to figure this person out. Stop. If you have to figure them out, that is probably an indication that you're maybe not ready for that relationship, or that they're not a safe person. The right people you don't have to figure out. They expose themselves to you. They show you to the tolerance that nervous system feels safe with you, who they truly are.
Can we go back to shame?
All day. Yeah. I'm super friendly with shame. Yeah.
I don't think people actually are that good at recognizing it.
No. Why would they? Well, I think people.
So what is it? Let's start with definitions. What is it?
So shame, I think, is broken expectation for either how you think you should be or how you have imprinted a belief of how you think somebody thought you should be.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And I think it's those broken expectations of like, if I don't perform, if I don't do this thing, it's an if this, then that. Right. So I didn't perform in that way, and therefore I'm a bad person. I didn't perform in that way, so therefore I don't deserve love. I didn't perform in this way. So yeah, of course they left me. I didn't perform in this way. So yeah, of course they cheated on me. I didn't perform in this way. So of course my kids messed up. I didn't perform in this way. So yeah, I'm going to eat a couple more cookies. I didn't perform. It goes on and on and on. And at the core of what healing shame is recognizing probably perfectionism, but also forgiveness. Because like I said, it's 1:48 Eastern over here. I haven't eaten today because like I had a busy morning. I had a bunch of stuff. Should I have eaten? Yeah, but should instantly leads to shame. So instead, I just play, right? I'm like, oh, how silly is it that I didn't eat? No, I'm not a piece of shit. No, I'm not a horrible person. Yes, I am hungry. And that second cup of coffee at 2 in the afternoon is for sure having an impact on how my nervous system's perceiving life. But like, I'm also okay because I am a regulated human being who can be intentional about the things that I'm consuming, performing, and doing. But shame is not allowing yourself to have the things that you think you deserve or that you truly deserve because you haven't earned it.
How early can shame show up? Like kids?
Good God. Like, I've seen it in very, really young kids. Like we know babies are feeling tones and connection and chemistry from moms, right? And I'm not trying to imprint this or shame moms for shame.
Right.
Because so shame's not the problem. It's not. Shame is normal. It's how we experience shame. It's the shaming of the shame. It's like I am a piece of shit. I don't deserve love. That, yeah, 100%. When we believe it instead of hear it, then we start to get a little swirly. But shows
because
this
is very interesting. My husband and I were having this conversation about, differences in Western cultures versus, where the individual, the capital I in individual in Western culture, and the collective we in Eastern cultures, right? Where it's, and in some societies where there is a concept of shame to keep society as a whole, the greater we, civil.
Correct.
Right. And you can also see the West, and specifically America right now, in its deterioration of its civility.
Yeah. Call it out.
Yeah. It's just like, and it becomes, and I heard someone say the other day that it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to be shamed. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Some level of shame in and of itself is not bad, which is what you just said, right?
No, it's like saying like grief is bad. If we integrate shame, it leads us to worthiness.
Ah, wow.
Right? Because if that expectation was broken and then we just continue to repeat the pattern over and over again, it's just, I don't deserve love. I'm not worthy of receiving. I can't do this. I shouldn't do that. I can't do this. I shouldn't do that. And then that's who you become. But I think if we actually metabolize it and we allow ourselves to sit in that, like I get asked this a lot. So one of my communities is called Wired for Worthy. And everyone's like, well, how do you wire yourself for worthiness? And I'm like, man, through suffering, sorry. But like it's very much allowing ourselves to be a safe person. I am a safe person to let old versions of me hate myself. And I'm not going to punish myself for that.
Right.
And that's allowed me to love myself unconditionally, not transactionally, not only when I perform, not only when I feel good, but in the moments when I was really broken and broke, and like super easy to go back to those times and be like, I am such a failure. I'm such a bad person. Like I do not deserve like this. I don't deserve, like I'm just in all of it. Right. And I would just shove it down and like, no, I'm not, nope. That's not real. That's not real. That's dissociation, right? Like that's the complete bypassing of your emotional reality to move into a mental reality, but it's compartmentalization, it's intellectualization. But then I hit this point where I'm like, you know what? I wonder if I can love myself and be safe enough to let my older version show. And this is IFS, internal family systems. This is parts work, no bad parts. Dr. Schultz is the OG on this. My mom, who's a therapist, she practices this, and she's an extraordinary woman. And this is what really kind of clicked it in for me, where I'm like, I wonder if I can be a safe enough person to let myself hate myself without being afraid. And it turns out I could.
Wow.
And then, now that my daughter is this age, I wonder if when she gets frustrated, I wonder if I'm a safe enough person to let her at times hate and be frustrated with me and not take it personally, and let her process that so that she knows that those emotions are real and how to take responsibility for them after she recognizes that the projection of that insecurity onto me is safe but not sustainable. But I'm not going to pressure her into that, but she might just not have the bandwidth for it at this age. So there is times where I do mess up as a parent, and I'm not punishing her for that. I'm not punishing me for being an imperfect parent, but I do owe it to myself to see what that pattern is and see how I can change it.
I want to literally walk away from this having memorized all the areas of self-regulation: physical,
mental,
yep, mental,
emotional, social, and then life
social,
purpose.
and life purpose.
Life purpose is like kind of a new one, and I haven't talked about it a ton, but I really do recognize that if we don't have purpose, if we don't have meaning, we will absolutely worship the god of pleasure. We will absolutely make our lives all about short-term rewards and not, long-term consequences. And that is the most insidious version of survival, where you feel good just making it. And I'm like, that's not for me. And if that's for somebody that's listening, again, I get it. I think people are doing their best, but you deserve more.
Let's say someone wakes up, one day, and they just got back from a trip and they're tired. Physical's not quite there. Okay. Mm-hmm. Wake up the next day, also haven't been, in the day-to-day life of their family life, right? Everything seems to be fine. Yes. But it kind of goes off the rails at breakfast time, where there's a little observation, and, like dad says to mom, like, oh yeah, I don't kind of like what's happening here in the kitchen today. Like, and mom's like, are you kidding me? Come again? Like, you've been gone for 5 days. I've been holding down the fort with all these kids. And like, who are you, Mr. Kind Observer, to come in and start pointing out, like, you don't like this or you don't like that? Yeah. And what's interesting is later on, when repair work needs to take place. So let's say, let's say this person is me, right? And it's like, okay, I know what happened. I know what I said. Probably if I could go back and do it over again, I would have handled it differently. Yeah. But what's interesting based on our conversation today is I was not ready to respond to a situation. I was reacting. I was purely reacting. Like, I came into something that I didn't have context. I wasn't fully aware of the happenings of the last, week.
Yeah. You were a visitor for a couple more days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you change that? Like, is it, so I was thinking through, like, okay, how can I do that differently in the future?
This is a banger of a question. Like, right? This, and like, you're not the only person that goes through and experiences this.
Because it sucks. Like right now, I'm sitting here feeling like, gosh, I kind of messed up my morning today. And it was like, and I own that. I messed up my morning today.
Yeah. So have you heard, rupture, repair?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Rupture, regulate, repair. This is another one of those parenting things and relationship things where people are going to mess up. They're really going to screw up. Not cool, right? If you go back and try to repair in the same state that you broke in, it's going to repeat.
Right.
So if you do it with a person, if you do it with a family, this is where vulnerability just pays dividends on emotional regulation, where you show your kids, you show your partner, like, hey, so does anybody remember this morning? And you can take it as serious or as playful as you need. Like, I came in and I was a bit of an asshole. I just want to own that. And I want to apologize. Husband, wife, I'm really sorry. I came in and I nitpicked something instead of just recognizing that, yeah, I had been gone for 5 days. We haven't caught up. I don't know where you're at, but I came in and I picked this thing out. And I'm sorry for that. I really am genuinely sorry about that. And I want to make sure that you know that in the future, here is my plan the next time that I travel. I'm going to come back and you and I are going to have a plan for how I can take some of the burden that you have been managing and dealing with on a household level. And then we're going to have a small, brief text message interaction while I'm on the airplane so that I kind of know where you're at. So when I land, I don't come in like a bull in a china shop. Does that sound good? Does that feel safe for you? For the family, when I come back from these trips, I'm usually just mentally exhausted because I'm doing X and I'm doing Y. And I realized that this morning I took some of that out on you. I didn't have the bandwidth to be as present with you as I really wanted to. So the next time that this happens, I want to see if we can find a different way to play instead of what happened. And here's my plan to make sure that I'm available for that. Or if I'm not available for that, here's my plan to become available for that. How does that sound? Does that feel safe for everybody? So you're taking responsibility, you're expressing vulnerability, you're recognizing that, yeah, you fucked up, right? Humans are gonna mess up. And here's how I plan to fix it. You can be sorry, you can recognize that you hurt people, and you go take ownership so it doesn't show up again. It's a hard thing to do. Vulnerability feels dangerous to most people because conflict has never been in an area that wasn't dangerous. Conflict for most people is so dangerous to them because it means isolation. It means that when they question their parents, when they question the foundation of a relationship, when they have curiosity about it, they've been gaslit, they've been lied to, they've been sent to their room. I do not have this parenting thing figured out. My goal is to make sure that my daughter does feel safe in conflict. And she called me out the other day. She said, you said you were going to do that thing and then you didn't go do it. I don't like that feeling in my body. And I'm like, you are hot. Yes, 100%. I did say that I was going to go do that. Yes, I'm sorry. I overextended myself tremendously today. So yes, I said that we were going to go for a bike ride and go get ice cream, and then we didn't do it. And here's my excuse that is not valid, but it's what the story in my head was. So I'm not only showing her how my head got to that perspective, but also going to say like, okay, so we didn't do it today. I'm going to let you know that tomorrow I have blocked out this amount of time so that we are going to go do it. The only thing that's going to stop us is the rain. So how do you feel about that? And how do you feel about what happened this morning? Like, I'm mad. Like, yeah, I promised you that we would go do that. And I dropped the ball. You should be mad. But she's learning to take that responsibility, and then she's learning to advocate for her needs in conflict, because that's what conflict is for. It's advocacy, it's regulation, it's knowing that conflict can be safe and it doesn't have to be dangerous.
What does emotional regulation look like as a practice, though? Is it different for everybody?
Vulnerability. I think a huge chunk of it. So like Brene Brown is really awesome about this. And what I've recognized is it's interesting the more I get into my work and the field that I guess I am in now, that I am a dude and she is a lady. So we look at things a little different. Because there is for sure times where dudes are going to be more prone to frustration, and that frustration can turn into stonewalling, and it can turn into, all kinds of just shit. Right. And at the same time, women also have propensities for any kind of emotional expression, which I am sure as hell not going to say this is how women feel, because I value my life. That said, emotional regulation is responsibility and vulnerability and change when necessary. Feelings are what make you you. It's the reason that life has color. It's the reason that you have joy and happiness and contentment and sadness and grief. And again, a huge chunk of a regulation life is making sure that you're intentional about the areas that you do want to express, and that you don't punish yourself when you do react, because you're not a machine. As much as I would love to say that I live a regulated life all day and this is the intentionality, I sure as hell planned to eat breakfast today and then like fumbled a couple calls and went a little over on this one and then missed that. And then, oh crap, I have this podcast. A cup of coffee would be really cool for that podcast. And I'm not like punishing myself for that. Right. So emotional regulation very much looks like that.
Do you have practices that you follow for yourself that have held up over time?
Yes. So I am very cognitive, if you can't tell. but I don't,
I
I
wouldn't have
don't,
guessed.
never would have guessed, but I process life. So you can either be a top down processor where you think your way through life and circumstances, or you can be a bottom up. I am very much a bottom up processor, which simply means that I do really well with moving my body and then communicating to understand. So I go to the gym
Ah,
pretty much every day. And then I also journal. I also meditate when I feel it's necessary. I do therapy maybe once every couple months or consistently for a couple weeks, depending on the shit that's going on in my life. I don't drink. I don't smoke. Um, like I enjoy paddleboard. All of these things are just what's real. They're the things that I value. They're the needs
mm,
that I allow myself to have. Um, so I also play video games with my brother, who is all the way north of me in Minnesota when I'm down at the bottom of Florida. So he's my best friend, and he and I've been through some shit. He's my older brother, and I love him to pieces. And he's got a tiny human, but our tiny humans are like 6 years apart, which is crazy because I'm the younger.
wow.
So, but he's still my best friend. So I make sure that I have that time that he and I can play and connect, and we do bro, trips when we can. So the things that are consistent in my life are the patterns and routines of my everyday, which is I usually am up at 4:30, 5:30. If my tiny human is with me, then I'm usually out in the garage and I'm working out. And then if she is doing weekends or time with her mom, then I am taking time to do morning workouts. So the afternoon is really slow. I try to stop working at 3 o'clock every day and like not shut it down, but like really shut it down. Like not just like, oh, I'm gonna do some emails because there is never a day where I'm not
Right.
gonna have 10,000 different Instagram things popping up.
Totally.
Never. Right? Like you get that.
Yeah.
So it's bandwidth and allocation. Like at the end of this, am I gonna be so happy that I responded to 10 more DMs, or am I really happy that I played catch and caught the sunset? Like, yeah, it's that sunset. And not only is it valuable to me, it means the world to those kids.
Absolutely.
So that's what I do.
I want to talk about emotional regulation in the workplace for high performing people. I've
Yeah,
been
me
around
too.
high performing people just about, my entire career. And I know from my own experience, I am no stranger to being dysregulated in environments where I have colleagues watching, where you're on stage, whether it's C-suite gatherings, whatever. I've absolutely been there. And it's been really hard at times. And sometimes, like when I reflect back, like sometimes I've handled those situations where I've been dysregulated well, and sometimes not so much. And what's interesting is like when I look across the room in those situations, it's not just me. Like there's others getting dysregulated, right? So it's not just like, but like when you put a room together of high performing people, like you can get a dysregulated environment pretty easily. Why does that happen?
I think when you put a bunch of people who are used to, and I'm not saying this in a derogatory term, but they're a bunch of executives, high performers in a room who are used to governing, control, and setting tone, there's destructive wave patterns, right? Like
Yeah.
if we talk like from a physics standpoint, right, there's constructive and there's destructive wave patterns. So, and this is just a model of thinking, it's not actual, but when you are the person who often is setting the resonance of the room and the culture and the environment, and then suddenly you're in a room with a bunch of other people who are innately doing that, and maybe some of those people are doing it insidiously and they know what they're doing and they're holding themselves and posturing themselves in that way, it just gets a little squirrely. So in those environments, what I tell everybody is honesty and truth has never not won that competition ever, because I am me all the time. I'm like this version of me, but I go to Wall Street, I go to corporate, I do these $400 million mergers is what we did this week. And I'm in these boardrooms with these guys. So I'm playing in this space and I'm just watching like, sorry for my language, like this dick measuring contest. Yeah. And then like, I'm in there to do like negotiations and mediation. And like, I'll have to like call an audible at a certain point and be like, guys, we have to stop this. We're not even talking about this anymore. What is going on? And this is where I'm so weird and squirrely in this. I say, fuck this. Everybody get up. We're going for a walk. shut the fuck up. We're going to mediator. I'm super sorry. You want to come? And we bust everybody's bitch ass out of that. And we're going to go for a fucking walk wherever we're at. Right. It's so cold outside. Shut up. We're going to go for a walk. You guys are going to bicker like children. I'm going to treat you like children. But these executive guys are not used to some like spry young lad talking to them like that.
That's
and
true.
that was all they need oftentimes. Is like, what? And like, what?
Yeah.
Stop. You're not getting punished. I'm asking you to go for a walk. That's it.
Yeah.
Every single time they come back into the room, it's different. Every single time. And they all recognize it. And then like, has anybody, like, you remember elementary school and like somebody farts and then it, like, you're not supposed to laugh because you're in the middle of a test. And then like one person, you just kind of hear this and then like, it's over.
And then it's over.
You watch this smile break out from like usually the dude who's being an asshole. And like, I'll make eye contact with him, I'll like wink at him or some random shit. And then he cracks and then it's over. 20 minutes later, we got contracts signed, mediations out, like every single time, because they put down the facade and we can actually get down to the reason that we're here. We can actually have a discussion. We can actually be honest. We can actually be truthful, because especially in business, everything is transparency. You can't hide anymore. I know your tax receipts. I know what you're worth. I have all the documentation. And turns out I'm also not an idiot. So when you're asking for $200 million over what your valuation is for 80% of a company, no wonder you're cheesing them off. They just flew in from Tokyo 19 hours for you to piss on their leg and call it rain. Knock it off. You're not doing anyone a favor. And that's what emotional regulation honestly is calling people out and then not making it combative or like saying that like it's anything other than what it is. And then when they do take it personally, awesome, but we're going to do jump squats. Well, I'm not going to do jump squats in my Louis Vuitton suit. I'm like, sick, then you get to go home. I get to be mediator and you're not going to play my reindeer games. I'm not in here to just make you guys close this deal. Get it done. But you can't get it done right now because you're being a fucking asshole. Stop it. I'm treating you like children because you're acting like it. Get out, come back, go get a cup of coffee, come back. I don't care. But like, we have to find a new calibration for this. And like I said, those guys are like,
totally.
What? You don't, what? And like, you paid me to be here. So, well, you can kick me out. And then they are, at some point, everyone always cracks. They always just break. And then they're like, you're an a-hole. Like the mediator's gone, the court reporter's gone. They're like, you are horrible. I'm like, yeah, for sure. Are you going to go get sandwiches? Like, are we going to go get pizza? Like, you can try to hate me, but it's hard to hate me.
If folks want to find out how they can work with you or like orbit your universe, how can they find you?
So all my stuff is Dr. Chris Lee.
Okay.
That's my handles on every social media. We are trying to, jumpstart our own podcast over here. I've got coaching communities that I do for the general public, and I do a leadership development. And like I said, I've got a consulting firm. We do negotiations, we do mediations, we do advising, we do executive coaching. So if you do want it at a business and strategic level, I've been doing that for 10 years. And we've got a really cool track record of all the companies that we've worked with as well. So we kind of do a little bit of this, but it's all centered around nervous system regulation. So it ends up paying dividends all across the board.
So
that's where people can find me.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. If this conversation hits you, here's the question I'm walking away with. Where am I reacting instead of responding? Dr. Chris talked about rupture, regulate, repair. That might be the most important framework for relationships I've heard in a long time. If this episode resonated, subscribe so you don't miss future conversations on regulation, parenting, and leadership. Drop a comment and tell me, which of the 5 pillars do you need to work on right now? Physical, mental, emotional, social, or life purpose? And if you know someone who's carrying a lot right now, send this to them. We need more regulated humans. See you next episode.